Moving on to the personality factors in learning a second language, we have some parts of personality, like we think of someone being an extrovert or an introvert, or maybe willing to take risks, but it's not as much your style of learning, but more just your personality and how that can affect the language learning process. If you're a nervous person, you're, again, first of all, the self-esteem, just your general confidence, it benefits a student to have that self-confidence and self-esteem so that you can use the language and have the confidence to step out practicing the language, as opposed to having that insecurity that could hold you back a little bit. Again, we've talked before about how there's kind of a stereotype that extroverts are very secure people and introverts are insecure, but actually, according to research, some would argue that extroverts can have an insecurity because they need the approval of people, whereas an introvert could be interpreted as having a security because they don't really need as much the approval of other people. So, I mean, they can both work for you as a student. As far as the attribution theory, we can also determine when someone succeeds, what do they attribute it to? Or if they fail, what do they attribute it to? And if they attribute it to their personality, then they might think that they're not good at this, as opposed to feeling that maybe the material was hard, or I didn't have enough time to prepare, or kind of something more outside of yourself. WTC is willingness to communicate, which is another way to describe someone's confidence and interest in getting out there and communicating and meeting people. As far as your, of course, language ego, your ability to use language is part of your ego. And when you learn a second language, you kind of feel childish, or you might feel kind of dumb because you're not good with language all of a sudden. And so that can hold someone back who has a big ego or language ego, and we don't want that, to hold someone back. Your identity is so connected with language and your ability to use language, and when you learn a new language, sometimes, it's kind of like you have a new identity. In fact, that's another interesting aspect of learning a second language, is creating a new identity for you. The language you're learning might be more of an expressive language, which makes you a more expressive person, or it might be a less expressive language, which you would have to adapt yourself and kind of tone down your expression and actually change your personality, you might say. A lot of people